if qualified teachers was the solution, all the schools would be putting out great students, but they're not. There's a different game in play. My wife basically thought of herself as the chief learning officer of our homeschool. And our goal was to cause them to learn. It wasn't tabula rasa thinking that we've got to put it in their brain, but more educatory, education. We draw it out. And so what we're trying to do is invite the kids to learn to be their own teachers. You taught yourself a lot of this stuff with or without your parents or whatever, because you had to get in.
A lot of self-discipline was involved.
Yeah, and you had to figure it out. That's part of it.
I think that's a huge misconception about public schools, is that we don't teach them to learn, we just fill them with
No, I was
facts.
responding to what she actually said, because the game is, if you're not qualified as parents and all, you can't teach them, they can't exceed you. All of our kids exceeded us, every one of them. Not through that, but through wrestling with the material and learning.
But it's not only qualifications in the facts in your knowledge, in your mind, it's qualification in how to teach, how to do these things. If you've spent 20 years learning how to teach and actually practicing that, you're gonna be better at teaching kids how to learn.
Maybe not.
Going into following instinct over education, I think kind of what Fred was speaking to was a more militant style of education where teacher speaking, students listen and notes. Just speaking towards what he had said. But as someone who is still actively in the classroom, students are leading conversations all the time. If a student has a thought that not even I thought of, but it's something that would expand the conversation, let's talk more about that. Why did you think that? I'm not pushing my own narrative into these students. They're able to build and cultivate their own style of learning, and they're able to kind of discuss that with their peers.
Public schools are the best way to expose children to diverse groups.
Working in public schools for the last 3 or 4 years, it's been so great because I work with such a diverse community that I feel like just doesn't exist in the homeschooling community just because of the nature of, even though there are so many good programs, I've looked into a lot of great homeschooling programs just to learn more about it. They all are under the assumption of they're all homeschooling parents, so they all have that same underlying principle. They all have similar values in that one way, whereas public school being the baseline just kind of inherently has more people, more different ideas, more different cultures, more different everything. And so it's like forced integration in a way, because you're forced to see these people every day. You're forced to interact with them. You learn more about them, and you get to see them in every human way you could want to see different groups of people.
Absolutely.
I think also, aside from diversity in culture, you have diversity in socioeconomic systems. Growing up, very low income, I'm a product of public school. I was getting free lunch. Teachers would be so kind and so sweet to buy sweaters for me when it got cold, things like that. But you would also see, your peers who don't want their shoes creased, or, having the best this and that. You're able to open up to others. You're able to speak to different situations that you might have never experienced if you were, you're able to just kind of open up just to other people, really.
I homeschooled our 5 kids, or my wife and I did, but I grew up in public school in Alabama and private school and university. A lot of these experiences, what I saw and what I see today still happening, is you still got cliques and you still got this group, and I guess it's emo and preppies and this and that, and claiming that, hey, it's an opportunity for diversity to work and the process actually works are two different things. I would think we would have a better product by now with these decades of arguing diversity is going to make us get along. I'll tell you where everybody learns to get along. Sports events, social engagement, neighborhoods, friendships, shared causes. Our kids were in scouts and swim, and they took art lessons, and they had neighborhoods, and they had youth group in church, and there are all these contexts in which they're still getting to show up and get to know folks. It's not like all homeschoolers are just isolated any more than there are people that are in public school. There are kids that are isolated there too.
Hopping back to the question, it was really focused on diversity. When you
Well,
go into
that
a
it's
room,
better.
are they
Know
able
that it
to
was
see?
better.
Right.
It was a
but are they able
statement
to
that it's
see
a
people
better
that
way to do it.
look different from themselves? Are
Right.
they able to see people who
Sure, absolutely.
act different? You know what I'm saying?
You want to chime in?
Yeah, so going from Brooklyn, where we started our homeschool journey, we were part of a Black homeschool group. And very African-centered, very much, Marcus Garvey teaching, things like that. Then Daytona, where I grew up. The only homeschool co-ops I could find were, I had to write a statement of faith that I believe that Jesus Christ is my Savior and all this stuff, and I'm like, do I want to sign this paperwork? And then I stalled for like 2 years, and then I was like, you know what? My kids need to be around other kids, and we did it, and we were like the Black family in my homeschool group for years. And as a parent, you choose which environments you're gonna put your children in to make sure they are experiencing diversity, because it will cripple them if they can't navigate in wherever. I lived in Glasgow for 6 months where, can I touch your hair? I get it. But I specifically put my kids in situations where people talk different from them and they look different from them. My son said in his dance class, he's the only Black male. And I have to it's always navigating diversity, through what lens. So I think we have to help them with that, and we definitely need to expose them.
Yeah, I was just gonna push back a little bit, because in the situations you're describing, it sounds like those were not at all diverse situations until you, the one Black family, as you said, joined them. So in terms of diversity, I feel like those aren't.
So there were like Asian families and there were like Indian families, and so a little bit of diversity, different diversity, but a lot of times in different homeschool scenarios, my family was the Black family in Daytona Beach. And so we made it diverse.
Just a question to post for the homeschool side. Would you say that all parents are equipped with the diversity aspect of teaching?
Well, no, but I would argue that a lot of the things that you guys are talking about as problems with diversity, that isn't because of homeschooling or private schooling, it's because of demographics, right? If it's middle of the Americas, right, where it's like all white people, you're gonna have the same issues, the same ignorance in the public school as you would in a homeschool or private school. So it's not really related to the type of education you're getting, right? It's related to who you surround yourself with, and if you happen to be in a community that allows for that diversity, right? In homeschool, you do have to make an effort to go out and socialize with people, but you also have more choice in who you socialize with. This isn't exactly a diversity thing, it kind of is, but my son, he's a seven-year-old boy, and one of his best friends is an 11-year-old girl. So, and that's because of homeschooling, right? He's not forced to only socialize with second graders. He can make friends with whoever's at the park or whoever, are our friends. And so, like I said, with homeschool, you have that choice and the ability to look outside of what in public school, you're forced to socialize with certain groups.
I'm satisfied with the American education system.
Well, the question is, am I satisfied? I'm satisfied. I've been working in the public school system, the American public school system, for over 25 years. I'm satisfied. Now, do I see room for growth? Absolutely. For example, the start of school in, September, August, it ends in June. Kids get a summer vacation. Teachers are satisfied. Some teachers are unsatisfied with what their salary is, but for the most part, people are happy with their salaries. Kids are happy with what they're learning. They come to school happy for the most part. The lunch system works. Security is working. Kids feel safe at school. They love their teachers. They're making connections. Teachers are making connections with students, with parents, stakeholders. Kids are getting educated. People are, getting hired on jobs. We're producing doctors, lawyers, teachers, and the work. And so, yes, I'm satisfied. But again, there's room for growth.
I'm watching a very different movie than you are. I can't quite wrap my head around why the results we're seeing from the system would match it being good. Now, our definitions of satisfied may be different, but I think that's the challenge. It's this conversation we've had about control. And I look at, I think on one extreme, hyper controlling everything for an output is crazy. But the other extreme is everything being out of control. And that's a lot of what we see. I mean, homeschooling wouldn't be here if all these people thought school was doing a great job. So that's just where I think we struggle with. There's something more in the middle, that we provide enough controlled direction to produce a result of an educated population. And I think what most of us are feeling and seeing is that's not happening. We're not getting that result yet.
I want to speak as someone who still actively is teaching the American education. I have huge frustrations with having to depend on the teachers prior that they're doing their job to 100% excellence. Going into my first year of teaching, I taught second grade in Florida, and we had about 25 students. And out of the 25 in second grade, only 8 of them knew how to read. So it's a very frustrating process where my focus as a second grade teacher at that time wasn't necessarily, okay, reading skills. It's, teaching theme, teaching all of these different kinds of ideas and things. But now we're having to not waste time, but kind of prioritize different things, past standards, past skills that they should have already learned.
From what I'm seeing, apparently there's been a change, at least in the performance. Like, for example, attention spans have been going down. Kids are it's starting to become a lot more common for kids to be behind. If you go to a classroom in my school, it's very common to see at least 1 or 2 kids on their phones for the entire class, and the teachers oftentimes, they might just have too many kids on their hands to just stop the class and go, hey, Braden, turn off your phone or something like that. And as a 17-year-old, I'm starting to see my friends, a lot of them just stay up doing all-nighters all the time, and then just sort of being proud of that. Personally, I would not be proud to I would not go around and tell people that I drank a lot of coffee and was staying up studying until 4 in the morning. Other countries, they prioritize the actual absorbment of the materials rather than just trying to get the best score and moving on. And going off of that, a lot of the material is just sort of becoming disposable in a way where we're just sort of getting it, tossing it, and then throwing on to the next thing.
I want to jump on that because that's my biggest thing. I look at what other countries are doing with so much less and just how much better they are than America, and it hurts so much. Teachers are treated so poorly, so poorly. My mom is having so many problems with administration at her school, greedy administration that's abusing the teachers, making their job so much harder to do, because all teachers want to do is educate the kids. Teachers have the type of love for kids that is so unselfish and just so giving, and it hurts so much to see teachers being treated so poorly. Places like Finland, teaching is such a coveted position. You go and you will train to be the best teacher possible, and then you will be compensated for the work you put in, for the job you are doing.
I agree, because I've traveled to Burkina Faso in West Africa, and I was in a classroom with 48 kids doing Simon Says in French, and you could hear a pin drop when I wasn't speaking. I mean, I'm happy that students have teachers like you that will explain things to them and that will, be the mom that's not, sometimes they don't have parents. And you're being all these roles. It's so much to expect. Then they got to do the test, teach for the testing and this and this. And it's even if we could support the teachers with, mental health, something like, here's a free sports membership, gym membership, so you can blow off some steam. Even if it's just baby steps. But I think that maybe as homeschoolers, maybe that's something that we can do to support teachers. Because, we're all trying to do the same thing for our community, which is grow holistic individuals. And we're both, how do we support each other?
Right.
You know?
Kind of touching on what Kian was saying about getting resources too. I feel like it's such a norm in American education where teachers are creating an Amazon wish list. Like I just posted mine last week, you know, and my community really shows up for me. But I really wish it was my administrators that were showing up for me, or just, you know, the school district that was showing up. And of course, there's only so many funds that could be allotted in so many areas. But to equip my students for the year that I'm trying to strive for, I know that I have to get a bunch of outside resources compared to just, you know, what is provided to me.
Okay, as we wrap this up, does anyone have any final thoughts, final words they want to say?
Whether your kids go to public school or homeschool, everyone's kind of lived through COVID. So you've had to homeschool your children. Continue homeschooling them. The teachers can't do everything. You're your child's first teacher. They respect you. Teach them. And don't just relinquish all of your responsibility on the public school system or whatever, private or wherever. You're your kid's first teacher.
It's all homeschool, parent involvement and all the rest. But it's all beyond the home where we need teachers in whatever field or whatever to add and grow and challenge us. I mean, I think we meet again on that word school, on education. I think that's where that middle ground piece is for all of us.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Seriously, you know, it's not always easy to share your opinions and be so vulnerable, so thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Oh my gosh.
You too, buddy.
Insanely well-spoken person.
Well, I've read
So
a
much
lot.
fun talking to you.
You were awesome. I would love to have a counselor like you.